In the high prime of the Jurassic, an epoch when the Earth was still a swirling chaos and countless ferocious beasts trampled madly through the mire for mere survival, the night was forever torn to shreds by swift predators and desperate shrieks. Yet, at the very center of that vast, unfathomable wilderness, where even the bravest wanderers had to cower in the shifting shadows, there stood an ancient totem reaching resolutely into the clouds. It was no withered dead trunk, nor a monolith of frozen stone, but a colossal behemoth that chose to live its entire life as a monument of absolute stillness, radiating a sublime detachment that transcended the ages beneath the star-spangled vault. Tonight, by the gently flickering hearth fire, accompanied by this narrative that requires no effort to remember, let us wander into the true life of the Brachiosaurus who loved to sit in quiet meditation. Listen closely, in the chilling pure breeze of the high midnight altitude, there are no bloody cracks of talons tearing flesh, but only wave after wave of an ethereal, profoundly soothing respiration echoing through the cosmic void. This is the Brachiosaurus who loved to remain still. It anchored its four limbs deep into the Earth's cavernous core, yet hoisted its neck, spanning several spectacular meters, high enough to touch the very fringes of the cosmos. While its peers hustled frantically along the ground, bickering over succulent ferns in anxious unrest, it chose to stand tall for hours in the deep night, like a silent statue of a primordial philosopher. The crisp, cold night air brushed directly against its small muzzle, and the silver moonlight cascaded softly along the elegant contours of its long neck, delivering a sense of supreme peace to every silent observer. This prehistoric titan, who spent its whole life practicing the ultimate art of stillness, was, by its mere existence, the longest and most restrained embrace to a noisy, cruel world. The fateful fracture of its destiny occurred on a day of shattering eruptions, when continuous plumes of dark red volcanic smoke rose like burning pillars from the far horizon. Searing volcanic ash mingled with a pungent stench of sulfur, transforming into an all-consuming canopy of black clouds that mercilessly devoured the warm afternoon sun inch by inch. Across this vast plain, once celebrated as a primeval paradise, countless immense sauropods succumbed to a hysterical panic, swinging their heavy frames as they fled blindly in search of salvation. Trees collapsed in splinters beneath the violent stampede, and the earth shuddered in agony under the chaotic roar of tens of thousands of tons, every panicked footfall striking a frantic rhythm of death and destruction. Amidst this prehistoric cataclysm capable of obliterating all reason, the young, meditation-loving Brachiosaurus stood upon a high, rocky plateau. Its dorsal muscles, thick and sturdy from years of unmoving balance, now harbored a faint, involuntary tremor beneath the rough scales, brought on by the immense, crushing pressure of the epoch. It watched its kind charge blindly into unknown pitch-dark canyons. It watched apex predators slaughter ruthlessly through the billowing smoke, using the chaos to their advantage. The world before its eyes had completely lost its sacred order. At that exact moment, a monumental void opened within its soul, and it suddenly understood that before the absolute unyielding power of Mother Nature, blind speed was nothing but a futile waste of life. Refusing to step into the torrent of panic, it made a decision that no other living creature could fathom. It slowly gathered its four limbs, anchoring its massive weight firmly into the bedrock. In the midst of the cascading black soot, it gradually raised its soaring neck, welcoming the first chilling gust of high-altitude night air to pierce the volcanic fog, and softly closed its ancient, wise eyes. When absolute darkness finally obliterated the last residual warmth of the geothermal crust, the chaos across the plain slowly dissolved into an icy, desolate stillness. The creatures that had run so frantically either lay still in the muddy embrace of their final release, or huddled deep within the damp shadows of subterranean caves, shivering in the iron grip of the unknown and unable to find sleep. Yet, the meditation-loving Brachiosaurus remained anchored upon that solitary rocky plateau, as if it had organically fused with the ancient granite that had stood for eons, becoming an eternal feature of the wilderness itself. A bitter frost crept along the frozen ground, invading its tree trunk-like limbs, but its metabolic rate slowed miraculously at this moment, dropping to the absolute threshold of what life could sustain. It withdrew all its attention from the perilous floor of the world, channeling its entire being upward into that pristine realm of the high sky, a sanctuary undisturbed by any earthly conflict. All around it, owing to the settling of the volcanic ash, the night wind surged through the extreme altitudes above the plain, carrying a soul-cleansing coolness that swirled gently before its nostrils. This was a pure atmosphere that the earthbound creatures could never inhale, devoid of blood, free from anxiety, holding only the raw, cool sweetness of the primeval cosmos. It drew in a deep, long breath of this night wind, letting the chilling current travel down its meters-long windpipe, slowly pacifying the tight, weary chambers of its chest. As this single breath was released, the moonlight parted the thin clouds, dissolving into a beam of soft silver that fell with absolute precision upon its elevated brow. At that moment, the silent altitude endowed it with an unexampled philosophical majesty. It stood entirely solitary upon the boundary of life and death, using its stillness to forge its own sovereign dignity. Midnight thoroughly sealed the vast Cretaceous wilderness, as heavy, frozen frost flowers began to congeal upon the tips of the grass, refracting a cold crystalline gleam beneath the faint starlight. Yet, throughout this endless night where any creature would normally shiver in anxious vulnerability, the meditation-loving Brachiosaurus utilized its soaring stature to act as a lighthouse of safety for the entire plain. It required no movement, nor did it unleash any intimidating roars. Its towering frame, reaching over 10 meters into the dark, was the most comforting landmark under the desolate sky. Moonlight cascaded down its elegant slender neck, coated in fine slate-gray scales, resembling a never-ending stream of liquid silver, profoundly sacred against the pitch darkness. To the frail, tiny creatures scheming for survival upon the ground, this ultimate stillness and solitude radiated a near-divine luster, steeped in an unshakable sense of destiny. A few primitive mammals, who had barely escaped the fangs of predators by day and were now caked in mud, peeked their moist noses out from the fissures of the hard rocks. Looking upward, they gazed in pure awe at that long neck piercing the galaxy, sensing an absolute, non-violent serenity emanating from the Titan through the heavy night. Growing brave, they emerged from hiding, ceasing their frantic scurrying to settle meekly against the base of its left forelimb, which loomed like the stone pillar of an ancient temple, confidently relaxing their weary bodies. The Brachiosaurus faintly perceived the warmth of these minute-lives at its feet, but it did not incline its head to disturb them. It merely maintained its eternal stance, continuing its silent dialogue with the high winds. On a continent governed by a ruthless logic of survival, it used its silent presence to win the most luxurious pocket of peace for itself and these helpless companions in the deep of the night. The night had drifted into its deepest, most pure core, and overhead, the resplendent ancient Milky Way turned with an agonizingly slow, majestic elegance. From afar came the occasional, ethereal cries of nameless nocturnal birds, their voices drawn out by the wind, weaving through layers of wilderness mist before dissolving entirely into the silent frontier of the dark. The meditation-loving Brachiosaurus had now entered a profound state of total transcendence, its thick dorsal muscles fully released, surrendering its monumental weight entirely to the earth. At the margins of its subconscious, the storms of the ground and the ominous shadows of the volcanoes shrank to nothingness, dissolving into a boundless cosmic ocean formed of pure starlight. In this dreamscape, it was unburdened by its colossal mass. It no longer felt the blunt aching of its joints from defying gravity. It became as weightless as a nocturnal breeze, floating effortlessly across the glowing constellations. Its long neck seemed to transform into a single string capable of touching eternity, plucking a silent melody into the void with every even, slow breath it drew. The flow of time blurred entirely in its vigil. The passage of 10,000 years before this timeless sitting was but a solitary blink of a star's eye in the cosmic vault. It had no need to harbor the greedy anxieties of the predators, nor did it worry over tomorrow's decay. Its mere existence was an ultimate reconciliation with the primordial universe. This absolute quietude and restraint appeared utterly foreign to a brutal primeval world, yet it radiated an irresistible, sacred glow steeped in a tragic, fatalistic beauty. It stood like an ancient sculpture anchored at the end of time, using its breath as a chisel to carve the definitive meaning of peace across the endless wilderness night. Today, the Jurassic world filled with the thundering of titans and volcanic haze has long since dissolved into cold fossils deep within the strata through tens of millions of years of shifting seas and moving lands. The meditation-loving Brachiosaurus, along with the crisp high-altitude night breeze it once held to itself, have turned into silent, stone skeletons mounted in the depths of museums, never to move again. Yet, the absolute peace it uncovered during that freezing, endless night seems to pierce through the heavy rock layers, echoing softly by our ears tonight. Now, the night has grown exceedingly deep. The rush of traffic outside your window and the accumulated stress of the day have receded with the dark, leaving only this tranquil pocket of space belonging solely to you. Can you feel it too? That cool, refreshing wind expanding from the ancient plains, drifting along your tired thoughts, smoothly pacifying the tightly wound strings of your soul. In this world, you are under no obligation to run frantically at every moment, nor do you need to prove your strength to anyone. You may, like that soaring giant, allow yourself to become perfectly still in the quiet of the night. Let your consciousness ascend along its towering neck, rising slowly into that pristine sky free from any impurity, feeling the lazy passage of time with a mechanical yet liberating relaxation. As the ancient starlight gently closes within your mind, and you listen to that steady respiration that has vibrated through the core of the earth for eons, your eyelids grow heavy, and your physical form becomes weightless. The ancient night is softly dissolving your lingering attachments and exhaustion, and the warm darkness folds around you like a vast velvet blanket, cradle holding you in a serene embrace. Sleep now, for the Brachiosaurus has secured this ultimate primeval sanctuary for you. Close your eyes with a quiet heart, and drift into that sweet dreamland where all anxiety fades away, leaving only pure, untamed peace.